honorable ministers, senators and representatives present, superintendents, members of the National Climate Change Steering Committee, chairs and co-chairs, Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, Policy Council members and board members, the Forestry Development Authority board members and Policy Council members, our community representatives, religious leaders, distinguished delegates, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a great honor and privilege to welcome you all to this two-day high-level carbon dialogue held in Gompa City, Nimba County from August 21st to 22nd, 2025, starting at about this time. For today, I will be your mistress of ceremony, Ms. Sylvia Diamond Dober. I work for the Society for the Conservation of Nature of Liberia, Liberia's oldest and leading national conservation organization. I also do support the government of Liberia with the negotiations on loss and damage at the UNF. I will also be co-hosting with the chair of the National Climate Change Secretariat, Mr. Elijah Wapo. This gathering comes at a pivotal moment as the world grapples with the escalating impacts of climate change. The need for collective, decisive, and innovative action on carbon reduction has never been more urgent. So this dialogue is not only a platform for policy exchange and technical insight, it is a call for leadership, partnership, and shared responsibility. It is a platform for open discussion, really hard discussions, shared insights, and collaborative actions as we address one of the most critical challenges of our time, climate change and carbon management. On behalf of the organizers, we would like to extend our appreciation to all of you for being here, particularly our honorable ministers, senior officials, diplomatic representatives, and partners from international organizations, the private sector, and the communities. Your presence reflects the seriousness with which we approach the climate agenda and the collective will to move from commitment to implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, this dialogue for the next 2 days is designed to foster open and inclusive conversations around carbon strategies, from policy instruments, technology innovation, innovative financing, and benefit sharing. It is our hope that the insights shared today will help shape a really coherent, comprehensive, and robust national carbon policy that will place Liberia at the top of the African carbon market. So throughout the day, you will hear from distinguished speakers, you will hear from panelists across the sectors and regions. We have a diverse range of stakeholders in the room, and we encourage engagement, thoughtful questions, and shared learning. Let us seize this opportunity to strengthen partnerships and accelerate progress. Without any further delay, we'll go right into the first business of the day, which is the high-level opening. I'm guessing at this time we all have registered with the secretariat at the back. And so to formally open today's proceedings, it is my distinct honor to welcome the County Development Officer for Nimba County for the official welcome remarks on behalf of the county. That's Honorable Peter Kambe. If you are in the room, please welcome our guest.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Peter Kangbe, County Development Officer of Nimba County. On behalf of Honorable Paul Mampegono, the entire leadership of Nema County, local administration, and the citizens of Nema County want to officially welcome you to Gompa City, Nema County. We pray the superintendent will love to be here today, but due to a busy schedule, out of here to travel to Japan, she couldn't come. But howbeit, the local administration will be here, stand by you. And we hope the purpose for which this forum is called will be achieved. Once again, we want to say you are welcome to Nema. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the leadership and people of Nimba for the warm welcome into the city. Before we proceed into our official opening statement, we would like to recognize our sponsors in the room. This gathering is being sponsored by Novosphere through the government of Canada. We also have the MRV for climate action. We have the United Nations Development Program. I see the Energy and Environment Specialist, Madam Salematu Gideonian. We would like to recognize also Fauna and Flora for their support. I see the country manager, Dr. Mary Moluko. We would also like to recognize Heritage Partners and Associates. I think we have representatives in the room. I don't see Castle. Okay. We have a representative from HPA. We want to recognize the UK, the British people. We also like to recognize European Union delegation in Liberia. Do we have representatives here? And also WHH. Thank you so much for your support in ensuring that Liberia has a really comprehensive carbon policy that will lead us to being a key player on the carbon market, given our huge percentage of the Upper Guinean forest. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, for our official opening statement, we would like to welcome the Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, also the Chief Executive Officer, also he doesn't like that part so much, but from the institution which has the mandate to report on greenhouse gases in Liberia and regulate, His Excellency Honorable Emmanuel King Ure Paulo, to give us our common opinion.
Sylvia, thank you. You call it now. Before you call the name, I'm already on the stage. Sometimes to deal with the diplomacy as a technician can be challenging. But thank you for recognizing all of our partners and supporters. But at the time, of course, the Republic of Liberia, Minister of Finance and Development Planning, the Forestry Development Authority, the EPA now, we are also very major stakeholders and organizers and sometimes also sponsors as well. Distinguished ministers, honorable lawmakers, superintendents and development superintendents, development partners, representatives of civil society, including the religious community, women and youth leaders, international partners, members from the academic community, the private sector, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, I want to begin by extending our heartfelt appreciation to each of you for honoring our invitation for this National Carbon Market Policy Development Dialogue. Your presence here demonstrates your shared commitment to addressing one of the most challenges of our time, and that is climate change. As we all know, the climate is changing. Scientific evidence is clear that human activities such as deforestation, industrial emissions, and unsustainable land use are all responsible for these changes. The impact are being felt here in Liberia and across the world, threatening our communities, our ecosystems, and our livelihoods. In response, the international community, through the Paris Agreement, created an innovative pathway to provide incentive for countries and communities that are cleaning the air and protecting our planet. One of such pathways is the carbon market. This mechanism rewards those who reduce or remove greenhouse gas emissions, creating both environmental and economic opportunities. However, for this market to work effectively, it must be built on strong policies and laws. Rules are essential to ensure transparency, fairness, and accountability. This is why in its 24th sitting, the National Climate Change Steering Committee, which is the highest decision-making body of climate change activities in Liberia, chaired by the Minister of Finance and co-chaired by the EPA and the Forestry Development Authority, mandated the EPA to lead the development of Liberia carbon market policy and law. The FDA was tasked to work closely and support on matters related to forest carbon. To move this forward, the government of Liberia signed a letter of agreement with the Coalition of Real Forest Nations, CFRN, a respected US-based advocacy group, to provide technical support. Since then, the Secretariat of the NCCSC, which is housed at the EPA, has been coordinating this process. As indicated, a dedicated team of Liberian consultants, led by Councillor Urias S. Gord and supported by experienced legal experts from CFRN, has conducted an in-depth research on Liberia's existing laws and policy as well as international best practices. Their work produced a draft carbon market policy which has been reviewed and refined multiple times by a technical working group comprising government ministries, agencies, and civil society representatives. Furthermore, the National Climate Change Steering Committee Secretariat has facilitated public consultation in 7 of our 15 counties, ensuring that the views and voices of our people are heard. Through these engagements, 4 critical issues emerge that require broader national consensus. 1, understanding and ownership of carbon. Liberia must develop a deeper understanding of the carbon market and agree on the questions of who owns carbons in Liberia. Benefit sharing, that's number 2. There must be national consensus on how benefits from carbon market are distributed in a fair and equitable way. Number 3, which carbon market models should Liberia adopt? We should discuss and understand the advantages and disadvantages of the compliance or regulated carbon market and that of the voluntary carbon market, and decide if we want to use one market mechanism or both, and what should we include in our policy to address the disadvantages associated with them. Number 4, institutional arrangement. Liberia must establish a capable institution that transparently manage carbon market, collect and report data accurately to the UNFCCC in fulfillment of our nationally determined contribution and ensure accountability to our people. Over the next 2 days, this dialogue will dive deeper into these issues and gather perspective and recommendations. The goal is to reach consensus, build trust, and create a framework that works for the whole of Liberia. Our plan is to present a finalized carbon market policy at COP30 in Brazil in November. within our Liberian pavilion. This will send a strong message to the world that Liberia is ready, open, and committed to engaging in trading in a transparent and sustainable manner. In closing, let me express profound gratitude to the Office of the President of the Republic of Liberia, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, the Forestry Development Authority, other line ministries and agencies, and our partners who have walked this journey with us, including the government and people of Canada through Novasphere, the Coalition of Reforest Nations, the United Nations Development Program, Heritage Partners and Associate LLC, FUNA and FLORA, the EU, the government of the United Kingdom, and WHH, and many others who have provided both financial and technical support. Your contributions have been invaluable. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the work ahead of us is significant, but with your active participation, we can create a carbon market policy that not only serve Liberia, but also contribute meaningfully to the global climate action. I wish all of us here a fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Yapaulo. So the ED has really great plans for Liberia at COP30. He's looking forward to this really great pavilion. And since the meeting is going to be held in Brazil, where they have the Amazon, he has hoped, or the government of Liberia has hoped, to showcase the upper Garden forest that is usually just talked about in passing by. We really want to showcase all of the diverse species, the biodiversity potential, the ecotourism potential of that landscape. So not only does the government want to take this policy to COP, we're also talking about nationally determined contributions, the revised version that we need to take to COP. We're talking about other really relevant national documents like the 30x30 plan that will showcase Liberia's seriousness when it comes to conservation and other related matters. So thank you so much. Let me also recognize the arrival of the Senate Chair on Lands, Mines, Natural Resources and Environment. That's Honorable Simeon Taylor, Senator of Grand Cape Mon County. You are welcome to the dialogue. So we will go into special statements and expectations from some of our high-level guests. We will start with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, if we do have a representative from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. If not, it is my pleasing honor now to welcome the Managing Director of the Forestry Development Authority, the entity which has the jurisdiction to manage and protect Liberia's vast 42% of the upper Garden forest. That's Honorable J. Rudolph Merab for special statement.
Good morning. Please allow me to stand on existing protocol. I would like to join Dr. Yapaulo in welcoming you all to this dialogue. The future of our country depends on how we manage our resources, whether it's timber, gold, iron ore, or even now what is new to all of us, carbon. The way we handle it will determine how our country grows. If we decide to use it, excuse the expression the Liberian way, as an elephant meat, where we all divide it, instead of looking at it holistically as an issue that helps to develop our country for the future, we might lose sight. We must understand that we are one people, and our destiny is tied together, not separate. You know, our founding fathers, when they wrote our national anthem, they had a clause in there: in union strong, success is sure. I hope at this dialogue we'll understand that our country is bigger than each and every one of us, whether individual, whether communities, or whoever we are. And therefore, we should understand that our country, like His Excellency always say, we must think Liberia, we must love Liberia, we should build Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the Managing Director of the FDA. We need to think Liberia and love Liberia. At this point, we will call on the Special Presidential Envoy on Climate Change from the Office of the President. Is Madam Jenny Cooper, or the representative here from the Office of the President? If not, we move to the head of civil society, Madam Loretta Pope-Kai. Any representative from CSO? Thank you. So we have the chair of the National Union for Community Forest Management Body, Mr. Andrew Zellerman, that will be giving that remarks on behalf of Madam Loretta Pope-Kai.
Good morning to everyone. And let me stand on the existing protocols as I present opening remarks on behalf of the civil society organizations of Liberia and our communities that are in these forests and on the land. We think this is an opportunity for us as Liberians, especially for us as communities dwellers who face the realities of climate change. Liberia have come a long way ensuring that the voices of communities are included into our natural resource management, planning, and policies. We think inviting us here is the same thing that we are being part of. And we are thankful to the EPA, the government of Liberia through the EPA, the FDA, and the partners who have made it possible for all of us to gather here for the national review. The civil society organizations of Liberia and our forest communities received the draft of the policy, and we have taken some time out to sit together as people of Liberia to look into the policy and see some of the things we think are not in the policy to make it better for us as communities who should be benefiting from the initiatives. With that, we have documented our observations, recommendations that we think they should be considered into the policy to make this policy good for all, especially for us as community members. Kindly, we want to take this time to officially and formally present a statement to the EPA, to the government. I want for this to be done. If anyone, the EPA can designate someone to receive this, because we don't have luxury of time, so we don't want to read and all. But it highlights the key things that we have observed. Okay, so whoever that is designated. Okay. Thank you. On behalf of the civil society and the communities, our observation and recommendations are all placed in there, and we hope you can consider them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zellerman, for presenting your position statement to the NCCSC. So whether we are here representing industries, governments, academia, civil society, or the communities, I think we all have a common goal to accelerate the transition towards a low carbon future by sharing today practical solutions and bold ideas. So we do not only have government representatives and civil society actors in the room, we also have the private sector. And I hope we do have a representative from the Central Bank of Liberia to give us some statements so that we can get some insights into private sector investment into the national carbon policy. Central Bank of Liberia. Okay. So we have, good, interesting. We don't have the Central Bank of Liberia, but we do have the Liberia. Is that CBL? Oh, okay, Central Bank of Liberia, thank you. As a sustainable financing person, I'm always really happy when we have private sector in the room because we are really keen on knowing how we can talk about innovative funding models, especially when it comes to investing and supporting environmental initiatives within the country. So over to you, Central Bank of Liberia.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And I also like to stand on the existing protocol. I did not come prepared to make a formal remark, but given that the Central Bank of Liberia has been called, I'd like to indicate that the Central Bank of Liberia places serious significance on the issues of climate and its impact on the financial sector as well as the entire economy. Most recently, the Central Bank of Liberia partnered with the World Bank to launch an exercise intended to mainstream climate issues in Liberia's financial system. We recognize that a lot of learning and capacity building is needed for the financial sector to appreciate and positively impact efforts towards addressing climate issues. And that is why we commissioned an initial assessment to look at the state of readiness of Liberia's financial sector in addressing climate issues. A few weeks ago, the consultant concluded that assessment, which was preceded by a nationwide validation section. So we want to reiterate our commitment in terms of supporting national efforts. There is a detailed roadmap that has been attached to that report on mainstreaming climate issues in Liberia's financial sector, and we have the commitment of the executive governor and the board in operationalizing those issues that have been brought up. So for and on behalf of the executive governor of the Central Bank of Liberia, Henry F. Samoa, and the entire executive management team, we'd like to commit our readiness to supporting whatever decisions that will emanate from these national dialogues as far as the participation of Liberia's financial sector is concerned. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much to the Central Bank of Liberia. I also note that we have LBDI, the Liberia Bank for Development and Investment, in the room. So it's great to have private sector actors as we go through the discussions in the day. Now we will move to our legislators. We have the House Committee Chair on Land, Natural Resources and Environment, representative from Grand Jide County, that's Honorable Jeremiah Sokan. We'll call him for a special statement. It's really great that we have a legislator that played a really key role. He once coordinated the National Climate Change Secretary at the EPA and now transitioning to the House of Representatives. We hope we can get all of the support that we can get from the legislature for that.
I wanted you to wait so I can introduce him because I'm sitting in a seat. I'm now the national coordinator of the National Climate Change Secretariat. Before then, Honorable Jeremiah Sokan was seated there and he drove the process. Honorable Soka, you are welcome to this podium.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me stand on existing protocols and first begin by recognizing the chair on the House's Committee on Lands, Mines, and Energy at the Liberian Senate. I will also recognize my distinguished right honorables from the House of Representatives, the person of Honorable Anthony F. William, representative of District 2 in Maryland, Plebo-Solican. He is the chair on banking and finance. Also want to recognize the distinguished judge of the county, Honorable Jacob Chekba, DB, who has just been and have taken over as the chair of the Rule of Law Caucus in the lower house. And distinguished colleague also from Birmingham, the Honorable Sam Jala. Flanked by his side is the distinguished gentleman from Nima County, District 4, the Honorable Ernest Mansie. And let me recognize all of you, especially the members of the executive, the members of the diplomatic, our development partners, civil society, one and all, people who are expert, who have spent almost nearly their life in this sector, and continue to make sure that the sector, from the embryonic stage, become mature and sufficiently bring the benefit that this country so deserves from their natural resources. I salute you all. Quickly, it is a fulfilling moment to know that many years you work with colleagues, friends, as technicians, staff, and go through the rank of file. You are still around to witness, another layer of discussion to issue that is so dear. I see Honorable Sir Davis on the back there, and I can go on to kind of speak specifically to this issue. Of course, on my left, I will recognize the distinguished gentleman from Nima County, former Internal Affairs Minister, the former FDA Managing Director, Ms. Harrison Conway. I mention him because the National Climate Change Steering Committee would not have been active today without his leadership. He endeavored during the second term of the former president, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, to ensure the reactivation, and he was very instrumental to making sure that the foundation upon which this document, the climate change policy, is established, was. And so let me recognize that. Quickly, this dialogue is important. I'm not going to be theoretical about it. I'm not going to go to try to mesmerize, but I'm just going to go straight to the point. One, what are we talking about today? The dialogue that will lead to agree on a policy direction. That's going to be not only a literature like any other literature that we have in this country. We are very good at crafting and designing paper. We're very good at understanding and structuring sentences, the position of sentences. And we're very good at that. But what sometimes we fail not to see is that those literature that we created, whether they are enforceable, implementable, or are totally having impact, their prescription in the document. I think there where we need to focus. So as member of the legislature, we look forward to a literature that will not only be more merely theoretical, but something that will be enforceable, practical, and that we can be able to see the impact and measure them. With that, we look specifically to seeing that we will be bold, direct, and unambiguous when it comes to institutional arrangement. It's not a time to create a semantic, ambiguous, subjective approach in this literature. We need to be definitive. As a person who sat in and work on the subject matter, we need to be clear that if we are going to establish a new institutional body that will handle this, the government of the Republic of Liberia needs to be unambiguous and direct. If we are going to empower an existing institution, we must be definitively clear as to you are responsible and will be held. I know what I'm talking, because any attempt to remain unclear will lead to undermining the principle of this document before it's signed. We must. Second, we must also be very definitively clear, taking clue from the Liberian Land Right Act to see some of the weaknesses in there when it comes to the benefit sharing. Is it going to be implementable without emotion? Is it realistic? We must be able to be definitively clear on this matter. Finally, we must be clear again as to the ownership of carbon. We must, because the Land Right Act and everything else tend to create confusion and make the subject matter of ownership subjective. I think if we are not clear to be definitive, clear to define ownership, we also going to create a lot of issues. With that, the legislature will look forward. We welcome and want to congratulate all those who started this journey and those who continue in it. But the job is good to start. It is better to finish. Congratulations. Let's have a better day.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sokan. You know, Honorable Sokan once served on the board of the Green Climate Fund, which has the core function for supporting developing countries like Liberia towards achieving their climate goals. So I think he has a lot of insights in supporting the discussion today. And he made mention of 3 important points. You know, today we have a draft of the National Carbon Policy, but before we got to that draft, there were a lot of consultations and back and forth before reaching to this high level. And he mentioned 3 of the most critical things that were discussed, as if Honorable Sokan was in the room. And it has to do with the institutional arrangement, ownership, and benefit sharing. And just in case we go over 2 days in Gompa discussing this, remember, it will be because of those 3 issues: institutional arrangements, ownership, and benefit sharing. So thank you so much, Honorable Sokan. We'll move over to the other side of the Capitol building and call on the Senate Chair on Lands, Mines, Energy, Natural Resources, and Environment. That's the Senator of Grand Cape Mount County, Honorable Simeon B. Taylor. Welcome to the
Let me stay on the protocol established here and want to extend my thanks and appreciation to the EPA Director, the FDA, and the National Disaster Management, all of you that went to the climate conference in Baku. It was a very tedious time there. That's why I'm extending special thanks and appreciation to you people. And I would like to emphasize on this, and I hope the Finance Minister will take it very seriously. When Liberia goes into the international community to represent the country, when Liberians go there, they need to be folded, represented, and well taken care of.
I hope that this time around we'll have a pavilion. Because when we attended that conference, we were roaming around, the EPA bus couldn't rest. He would move from place to place, finding all Liberian delegates that went to that conference, and there was nowhere for us to sit. We're all over the place. Sometimes we sit on the floor to just represent Liberia. And I think the finance ministry should include some money in the budget for Liberia to participate in the conference this time around, so we can have a pavilion. That is key and very serious if Liberia should achieve the goals that we want to achieve. Because there are a lot of meetings at that pavilion. You have parliamentarians moving from different sectors for meetings. You have the think the crowd moving. You have all the policy makers moving. Different kinds of meetings. You have millions of people converging in one place to have discussion on behalf of our country and the continent or the world at large. Having said that, I would also like to thank the technical team for the draft agreement that we have, or policy agreement that we have. Most especially the one that gave ownership benefit to the communities, 50% share. That is key. Because it is only the community that will be able to preserve those things that you are asking for. They will deny themselves the right to hunt the animals, to cultivate the forests, and if they are not benefiting, those laws will not be adhered to. And that is key in our policy agreement. We would like for the EPA to handle that agreement very seriously and key, most especially when it comes to benefit sharing with the community. We represent the interests of the people, and most of the time, when those agreements are crafted and the people don't benefit, the flashback come to us, the lawmakers, because we represent them. They will not accuse you. They will accuse us that we did not work in their interests. And that's why most often in Liberia, you find whenever there is election, 90% or 80% of the lawmakers are booted up. And it comes because of the policies that we made, and they are not reflecting to them directly. And so that's our problem. And that's why you heard Chairman Sokan saying the benefit sharing is key and very, very important. So all of you that are crafting those documents, I should do that. The next thing, after doing all of those things that you are doing, we need to have the climate change law that will be binding on our people. And we look forward to seeing the draft policy law. Because I remember when we were English, they were emphasizing on the climate change law. Because all the good policies that you are writing, look, if you don't have a law, it is not binding on the people. The step we have moved to start generating funding from climate change, from carbon market, we need to establish the law. That is very key. Or else we'll continue having conference, dialogue, all over the place, and we'll move nowhere. Because sometimes people ask, when will the carbon money come to Liberia? We started discussing it more than 6 years ago. And up to present, we can't find the money. We can't get the money. And if we should have that money, meaning that we should establish the law, the climate change law. So having said that, I want to say thank you for inviting us to the dialogue. And we look forward to seeing the climate change law where we do critical analysis and to ensure that we have a climate change law that will benefit our people. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Taylor. I think we are getting into the dialogue. He spoke a lot about the experience for COP29, and as I said, the Executive Director of EPA has really good plans for COP30, and now is open to partners, especially our international partners in the room, to support that endeavor. Okay, so now we will now call the National Climate Change Steering Committee. And we have the Deputy Minister for Economic Management for the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. You know, the Ministry of Finance chairs the National Climate Change Steering Committee in Liberia, which is co-chaired by EPA and FDA. So it's a pleasing honor to welcome Honorable Depu Zuo to the stadium to give remarks on behalf of the National Climate Change Steering Committee.
Thank you. Our distinguished members of the legislature, the Managing Director of FDA, Executive Director of EPA, and other senior officials of government, the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, our past officials from FDA, our local government officials, private sector representative. Before I actually make my statement, I'm going to defer. I don't know how many I have here. I want to defer 1 or 2 minutes of my time. I didn't hear the private sector actor, and I want to give this space to the LBDR to make a short remark. Is Mr. President here? Christian Allison? Please. We want private sector statement. Central bank is not from the private sector. This, I can give you a mark if you want, if you like.
Thank you, Minister Zo. Of course, you're aware that you have caught me unaware, but just as was indicated by Mr. Brown from the CBL of the central banks, the importance of this initiative to the central bank, I would also like to indicate from the private sector's perspective, specifically LBDR, that this is a program that we deem to be extremely important, hence our presence here today. In fact, I had a brief conversation with an official of the EPA earlier, and we were in discussions for us to have conversations between my bank and the head of EPA so that we can start the private sector conversation rolling, at least from the financial sector perspective. So I'm indeed glad and gratified to be here this morning. It's a program I would have missed for the word. That's why we took our time off to be here for the next couple of days. So thanks for the invitation.
No, I'm still strong.
I know I breached the protocol for a reason, because where we sit at the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, we want to ensure that we have full representation and hear the voices from the bottom in our development planning process. And that's the reason why President Boakai, his arrest agenda, when he was actually giving the name, when we asked him, he said, arrest agenda. He said, no. It's going to be a rest agenda for inclusive development. So every decision should be more inclusive, more participatory, to ensure it reflects the interests of all Liberians to make the country more vibrant and prosperous. On this note, on behalf of the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Honorable Augustine Kpeye Gafuan, want to take this time to extend our thanks and appreciation to all the members of the Climate Change Secretariat and our development partners who have also worked with us, the ministry and agency who are also been providing technical support to have brought us this far. Today's gathering brings us to a point for us to discuss and interact and engage and look at what we call the arrest agenda for inclusive development, the vision of our current president, President Joseph Newman Boakai, which is also anchored in National Vision 2030.
As we speak, carbon market have become a major market around the world. We have come purposely as a country with the vision and direction from the president to provide a focused discussion where we will look at the natural capital, its opportunity, its genuine way to provide a landscape for governance and development. We want to thank all those technicians who have participated in this process. We want to say specific thanks to our legislators, many of whom have had prior knowledge, prior experience, and also have professional background in deepening the conversation on our carbon market. We also want to recognize the role of our local government in terms of discussion at a community level, where we get support and participation of chiefs, elders in decision making, in having a dialogue that will give us a sense of ownership and leadership in deciding our destiny, particularly on the next frontier of natural capital. This national dialogue, being more important to the AARD process, brings together to discuss issues of national importance. Before going further into the instrument itself, I want to bring on board a more thought-provocative argument on this issue of carbon market. Nowadays, more countries will be fighting, what method do we go for? We want to go for voluntary market or compliance market. And as we discuss in this forum, I want for all participants, meaning from the private sector, civil society, national government officials, and local government officials, to take key interest in identifying the model that will be more beneficial to Liberia and not to our partners. Meaning, this conversation should focus more on national ownership. We have lost a lot of opportunities in the management and the design of our natural resources. This administration, as President Barker always says, has the last chance to make Liberia more vibrant, to take us to the Vision 2030. On this note, I urge all participants to carve an idea that will bring us more opportunity and not to put us into what we call a Dutch disease scenario. Meaning, our goal, iron ore, diamond, all the MDAs were all concentrated at the capital. Decisions are made by technicians and policymakers. But the issue of climate change is more holistic, it's more of human face. And therefore, we need to have a major conversation that is done through proper coordination, collaboration, cooperation, and communication to ensure that we succeed in this endeavor. Let us look at the bigger picture to ensure first in the history of Liberia that we are going to be discussing our carbon market. Remember that climate resilience is more important than financial benefit we accrue. Meaning the issue of adaptation, beneficiation, and even the mitigation strategy all has cost to the society, particularly to the poor. On this note, I want to encourage you all to ensure the total involvement of the community leaders
and getting their voice incorporated. Working with the private sector as well, ensuring that the pricing mechanism is done to protect our natural capital. Besides the private sector involvement, we want to ensure that we consult widely with our policy makers. The issue of law reforms to ensure that existing laws does not conflict with the current policy to bring about some disaster in the management and implementation of the policy. For example, our Land Right Act and that of our Local Government Act. We need to bring on board policy that will ensure that we are not contravening our current revenue sharing law in contravention of the carbon strategy. Beneficial ownership, even though previous speaker talked about it, we are concerned at the level of development planning to ensure that our 8.4 billion development plan is incorporated, totally incorporated through a local resources mobilization, that we can ensure that what is generated is distributed nationally and locally. On this note, Honorable Managing Director of FDA and Executive Director of EPA, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning is responsible for the financial discussion and the National Development Plan, but the technical analysis that is required for the success and the fruitful discussion is in your care. Before I take my seat, I want to address a few things that the speaker talked about earlier. Today, the Honorable Representative mentioned the experience at the Climate Change Secretariat. We are looking at how we can ensure that not only we discussing the low carbon initiative, but we are looking at diversification and makes use of our natural resources to ensure that our people are protected first. Secondly, the adaptive and resilient land management approach is also captured to ensure that our citizens are not deprived of their own asset, which is land and the environment. For sustainable management of the forest and conservation, we are encouraging a dialogue where we incorporate agroecology method as we work on this policy, so that the financing component will be clearly defined and articulated, so that victims of land deprivation across the country will be able to receive the benefit in line with the law or the policy. On the final note, Honorable Senator, you are asked us to ensure that Liberia have a pavilion in Brazil. We wish to note that this will require collective effort as a government to ensure we mobilize the resources from both ends. We will work with our development partners, the private sector, and even the legislature to ensure that we have the full representation. Informally, let me say this. Unofficial statement. As one of the actors in this landscape, I want to say to you that we will do our best to make sure that we mobilize resources. And not to put you on the spot, we got two FDA managing directors, former managing director of FDA that are here. These two individuals, we work with them in our past life as consultants. But what is important here is that we also want to see other professionals coming with their voices on the table. This is our last chance to make a decision that will benefit our people. Under Yakpawolo, I will encourage you to do more consultation and more engagement. It requires us to see this process more like librarian ownership and leadership. And I believe President Boaka is very pragmatic, is very focused, and he wants librarian people to live better than what we have before. I thank you for this opportunity. And now, by the power vested in me from the Minister of Finance, I officially declare this dialogue and conversation open. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Depuswo. What I like about the minister is he usually doesn't speak like a politician. He comes on board and then he speaks like a technician and even a lecturer. So that was very insightful of you to recognize LBDI. I see we have the president or CEO of LBDI, Dr. Kristen Allison. It's really great to have you here to be part of this discussion. I know at some point there were discussions ongoing to have LBDI as an accredited entity for the Green Climate Fund. So it's about time we push those conversations to make sure we have a national accredited entity for some of this multilateral funding. So it's really great to have you here. You know, Minister Zwo spoke. You want to say something before I come? Okay.
You know, I was very thrilled when Minister Depu recognized LBDI in a room. And Honorable Soka knows just that when LBDI was contacted a long time ago to be one of the accredited entities, and they were listed. Honorable Soka, right? They were listed, but much was not done. So this time, the presence of the CEO is a clear demonstration that our partners are ready to move on. We'll work with you and ensure that we have a accredited entity that comes from the private sector. Thank you very much.
All right, so Minister Zwo talked about financing. He spoke about law reforms, development, and he brought in the inclusive nature of making sure that we did the community rights law. We talked about benefit sharing when it comes to commercial concessions. We talked about benefit sharing in the Land Rights Act. And he has reminded us that this is the last chance to get it right when it comes to improving the livelihoods of people who live along the fringes of the forest or local people in general. So at this point, the minister has officially declared the dialogue open. So you can jot down all of your points that we'll be using for the discourse. But at this point, we'll call on Mr. Asumanan Toure, the Parliament Secretary, to take us through the learning and performance objectives of the National Carbon Dialogue that will be held over the next 2 days. Okay, now I finally know your name.
Thank you, Sylvia. Good morning. Kindly permit me to stand on the existing protocol as I gave you the learning objective of this dialogue. So we hope by the end of this dialogue, the participant of the dialogue will be able to explain the concept of carbon as both a global and national economic and environmental asset. Then you will also be able to provide understanding about Liberia's climate-related policy instruments, the gaps, enforcement challenges, and national alignment with the nationally determined contribution, the NDC. We'll also be able to describe key component of the strategic alignment. We'll be able to describe key component and strategic goal of the national carbon policy. Then you'll be able to identify linkages between the carbon policy and Liberia development goals, which include the renewable energy provision, the forest and biodiversity conservation, agricultural production, solid waste management, and climate change adaptation. You also be able to recognize the importance of inclusive participation in policy development across sectors, government levels. You talk about gender, age gap, geography, and culture. And finally, you'll be able to summarize international good practices for carbon governance. So that being said, we move on to the input. We'll be looking at sectoral input for the national carbon design, which will rely greatly on you, the participant. Also be looking at we'll be also looking at recommendation from you for the development of the national carbon policy. It's key. Then the drafting of the climate change law. We'll also look at the RED+ strategy. Then update for the national climate change policy. And finally, we'll be looking at the mechanism for inclusive engagement and proposal for carbon value and capture development for it to be aligned in the carbon policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ansu, for clarity, giving us why we are here. Xavier told you that we'll be team working, so when you see me, don't be confused. We want to say that we put this aspect after here, but it was an error, so we want to bring it up front before moving forward. We indeed recognize the vicegerents of the president in the county, that why we put them on the front line to sit on the front tables. So we want to give you special recognition. We apologize for bringing this part this time. We intended to do it later. Somebody put it there, but it was around the place. We're bringing it forward. So we want to ask you, please, all superintendents of the county here present, please stand up. All superintendent and representative, whether you deputy or you DSO of the county, please stand up. And I will bring the microphone to you. You call your name and the county you come from. Then we'll ask, because you have council, right? Then we'll ask the leadership, the council out of the, I know Cog is not here, but they have parliamentarian, they got this, they got that, you got your representative. After you call your name, then we'll ask your council lead to move on the podium to make a special statement. Thank you very much.
Maya Kate Padman from Sando County, Superintendent of Sando County.
My name is Lavla Masakwe, Superintendent Lofa County.
I'm Baron W. Sanwe, Superintendent Riverside County.
I'm Henry Cole Jr., Superintendent Maryland County.
I'm Antoinette Wawili Namnen, Superintendent Grand Crew County.
On the Spowa Pia Senior, Financial Officer, Grand Bassa County, representing the Superintendent of Grand Bassa County.
My name is Alexander W. Dennis. I'm the county officer serving as acting superintendent, River J County. My name is Peter Kamwe, County Development Officer at Nema County.
Some people behind there, I see the DSO here from Bon County.
My name is Sidiki Kruma, the County Development Officer of Bon County.
I'm Davison Bali, County Development Officer of Grand Jide County.
Alfred B. Zina, County Development Officer for Bombing County. My name is Francis Egu Lansana, County Development Officer, Lufa County.
My name is Musi Bazanga, County Development Officer, Gompa County.
Why are you not here after the session? Okay, go ahead.
I'm Joe M. Sekwe, County Development Officer, Grand Creek County, and Chairman of the National Development Officer Union of Liberia.
Thank you very much. I see two other persons there. You know, we're doing a county consultation. I want some people to stop me from going their county.
Number S, normally, County Development Officer, Babel County.
I'm Alexander W. Hinen, County Development Officer of Riverview County.
Somebody, oh, sorry. After the session, you will take your side, eh?
My name is Gerald S. Dolon. I'm the Administrative Assistant Superintendent of Bond County, please.
Good. Any other person? All right. So I have the single honor to invite on this podium. The county is recognized at the bread basket, but they are debating that with Nimba and Bon. We want to call the Honorable Superintendent of Lofa County, Honorable Masakwe, to speak on behalf of the Superintendent Council of Liberia. You know, we were in Lofa 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. We are 2 or 7 counties. He was one person who remained in the program up to the end, so he's qualified to give this opinion.
Thank you. Good morning. Let me take this time to recognize all government officials and organizers of this all-important dialogue. Recognize members of the 55th Legislature present here, my fellow superintendents, county development officers, CSO, the media, fellow citizens, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I want to say thank you to the Executive Director of the EPA for always having us to participate in this dialogue. But this morning, when we didn't see our name on the agenda, we raised a concern that it will always be necessary for the superintendent to be recognized to make a statement when we come to these occasions, because the government structure is at the various levels, various layers, and the superintendent or the county local administrators are the first layers dealing with the people, and the same time dealing with various sectors of the government. I say that to say that we exactly understand and live with what affects our people in the various counties. Take for example, there are policies and laws that have been made that the people in the various counties supposed to be benefiting. But since we took office, some of these benefits are not forthcoming. If you look at the local government of 2018, it talks about revenue sharing. Now, if you blend the revenue sharing with the forest sharing agreement, it's there. Every county is supposed to benefit from the forest sharing agreement, blending it with the local government act. But since 2024 and up to this date, no county has received any benefit in that direction. So we need to look at that too. Because when we're making the new law, we got to first of all look at the old law, whether it is working or it is not working, for the interest of the people. Then we look at the protected community forest. There should be a clear law, the enforcement of the law. Sometimes the laws are there, but in the community, the people have to be informed. If you make the law, once the people are not informed, the law will be on the book, but they will not live with it. So these are some of the issues we have. Then we'll talk about the proposed forest, community forest. When you say proposed, it means that you are determined, in my opinion, that that place will be protected, but it is not yet. But in recent times, we are looking at people that are enforcing some of the laws, are dealing with the proposed and the protected forest at the same time. I received a complaint from Zida, the Wanagizi protected area. They arrested almost like 20 people and took them to Zozo. And each of them was asked to pay some money. And then they called me. So that's happening across the country. It's not only to Lofa. If you say this place proposed, you are not started, you are not be protected, and you punishing people for it, it bring the burden to us. We as county officials. And that is happening every part of the country. All of the superintendents are having issue with those things. So we want to call on the policy makers for all of us to work together and let the people to understand the difference between proposed and protected. Because if you propose something, it is not in formulation, you cannot punish people for it. So these are things that are happening in the various counties. Our counties are having problems with the way sometimes some of the issues have been enforced. And you make the law, budget is passed, those benefits that are supposed to come to the county are not forthcoming. We need to look at that too and make sure our people receive the money. Because if these things are not addressed, the people in the communities will not adhere to the laws. They will continue to violate the law, and then the burden comes on us as county officials. So we want to recognize everybody and say thank you for having us here, but we need to work on those things, and those things need to be enforced. What the county is supposed to benefit, they should benefit, and the people have to be aware of the law. If you make the law, we should be able to educate our people to it and tell them the merits and the demerits, the benefit, and what they're not supposed to do. So I want to say thank you to the EPA, the finance ministry, and the organizers. Thank you so much.
Thank you to the Superintendent Council. Thank you so much. So we have come to the close of our opening ceremony, and because of time, we cannot allow every single person to introduce themselves, but we will recognize some high-level guests in the room before we go outside for our group picture. So right after this, we always assemble outside before the banner to do the group photo, and after that, we will jump right into the actual dialogue, the first technical session for the day. That will be moderated by Deputy Minister Depuzuo. So I see the Managing Director of FDA, he spoke already, Honorable Rudolph Mirab. We have Deputy Minister Depuzuo from the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. I also see the Executive Director of the National Disaster Management Agency, that's Honorable Ansu Dole. You are welcome to the dialogue. We have the EPA's Executive Director, Dr. Emmanuel K. Ureya Paulo. Thank you. We also do have the Managing Director of the Liberia Electricity Regulatory Commission, that's Honorable Augusto Guano. Are you here? Yes. You are welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I also see my former boss, that's the Country Manager for Fauna and Flora, Dr. Mary Moluku Odosi. You are welcome to the dialogue. We see the Deputy Minister for Planning and Development, that's from the Ministry of Agriculture, Honorable David K. Akwe. You are welcome to the dialogue. We also have the Deputy Minister for Industry from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry that sits on the board of the EPA as the chair. We have representative here, Deputy Minister Andrew G. Pega. You are welcome. Thank you for joining the dialogue. We also do have LBDR CEO, Dr. Kristen Allison, that spoke earlier. Thank you for joining the dialogue. We have Madam Rebecca Tape from the Interreligious Council of Liberia. You are welcome to the dialogue. Are you here? Thank you. You are welcome to the dialogue. We also have the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Very important when we're talking about gender vulnerabilities within the carbon process. We have Madam Grace Towa. Thank you very much. We also have from LACRA, Madam Gotia Kongoli.
Mister.
Is it Mister?
Yeah. Wave your hands.
Oh, Mister, please stand so I can see you. Mr. Godia Kongoli. Sorry for LACRA, you are welcome to the dialogue. You know, Sylvia, Godia, I thought we were going the same route. We also have the president from the Liberia National Student Union, Mr. James K. Washington. Are you here? Thank you for joining the dialogue, and we look forward to integrating line of consideration from the young people. Thank you for joining the dialogue. We also have the National Muslim Council of Liberia. We have a representative here. Thank you, Mr. Kuku Reeves. You know, and when you put your hand also, I can say Mrs. Kuku Reeves. Thank you for joining the dialogue. We have the co-director of the MRFV for Climate Action, also for Novasphere Canada, Madam Lisa Marokin. Thank you for joining the dialogue. We also have Mr. Scott Muller from Novosphere Canada. Thank you for joining the dialogue and supporting.
He has a national name.
Okay, what's the national name?
Tuazama.
Tuazama. Oh, wow. I wish. I only wish. Thank you guys so much for joining the dialogue. I also see the Deputy Minister for Planning from the Ministry of Mines and Energy. Oh, yes. Very familiar face. Mr. Fansef Moba, thank you. Welcome to the dialogue. And we cannot do this dialogue without recognizing the former Managing Director of the Forestry Development Authority, former Board Chair of the Forestry Development Authority, that's Honorable Harrison S. Canway Senior. Thank you for joining the dialogue, Honorable. We also have from the board of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, but the Managing Director of the Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation, Honorable Mohammed Ali. Welcome to the dialogue, sir. We also have the President of the Liberia Fellowship of Full Gospel Ministers and Churches, Mr. Samuel Colley Jr. Welcome to the dialogue. We have from the Liberia Land Authority, we've been talking about the Land Rights Act. It's really great to have LLA here. I see Mr. Tom Wesley Copper. Thank you for joining the dialogue. I see the Vice President for Graduate Studies at the University of Liberia, Dr. Jonathan C. Taylor. Thank you for joining the dialogue. Higher education is very important when it comes to the policy, and we also have lots of technicians from the university that have been helping with the policy. So thank you for joining the dialogue. I also see another former Managing Director of the Forestry Development Authority. Very helpful when it comes to the just ended USAID WABI-led program, Mr. Daditon S. Twavin. It's really great that we have 3 officials from the Forestry Development Authority. So yeah, it's going to be a really great conversation. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome to Liberia. Welcome to the dialogue, Honorable Twavin. I also see Mr. Baron Zamwe, Superintendent for Riverside County. I think all of our superintendents introduced themselves. Thank you so much for joining the dialogue, all of the council members. I also see from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, okay, these are all superintendents from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Thank you for joining the dialogue. I did recognize UNDP, Madam Salimatu Gerienian. Thank you for joining the dialogue. I also see from the Ministry of Transport, we have Honorable James Momo from the Ministry of Transport, Assistant Minister for Administration. Thank you for joining the dialogue from the ministry.
We call the Deputy Minister of Mines and Energy, Pastor Mwaba.
Oh, that's Master Energy. I think he just walked. Oh, yeah, we call him already.
Thank you. We were keeping, during the days of old, they said they were keeping the best one for the end. So we want to recognize the Press Union of Liberia and the media, the 4 estates. We want to recognize the Red Plus convener and all those involved. But we want to finally recognize you all. But this time, I want to take this time to recognize the elder. He was called before, and then we'll give him the microphone to make special statement. He led Liberia negotiation of the Liberia Forest Sector Project. He led Liberia negotiation of several forest issues, including the Red Plus. So it's my single honor to invite to make a brief statement our elder. Those are all from Nimba County would say lang. When you say lang in our vernacular, it's not just elder, but the most senior elder. I know in Nigeria they say Ogakpadakpa. So we want to call Honorable Harrison Kanwe to the podium to make a brief statement.
Raise it now for them.
That's why we call you.
Well, again, let me stand on all the protocols. We are pleased to be here. What we've been striving to do is what is being given some push from this government. We want to say thank you to the government for the effort being made. We hope that this time the effort will yield some results. We, being the biggest forest country in the sub-region, smaller forest countries are already reaping some benefits. I was just telling one of my colleagues that it's now that government sees carbon as a source of fund for development and of course, sustainable development. It used to be only Anya Vohiri, myself, and our staff. Later on, Americana joined us in Paris, 2015. The president, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, joined us in Marrakesh in 2016. And then, of course, the WIA government also gave it a lot of push. I'm happy that we are where we are. The attendance today is very impressive. Thank you, Mr. Managing Director, Mr. Executive Director, and all of those who have given them support to get these people together. I hope that together we can make Liberia benefit from its endowment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's very difficult recognizing high-level guests in the room when there are so many of them. So we're now going to close, but before that, we recognize Mr. Sir David in the room. He was head of the Red Unit under the Liberia Forest Sector Project at the FDA. So it's really great to have you coming all the way to Gompa to join the dialogue. Nobody may just coming from Yekepa, so we got to appreciate his effort for coming here. Okay, so at this point, we will go outside. The media team will lead us for our group